Hawa, Hadato to my indigenous American Aborigines. I um I just want to read something to you real quick, and I'm gonna tell you how just an example of how hijacking works. A clear example of how hijacking works, and I'm gonna be reading this from the Holy Bible. Okay, this is coming from the Holy Bible. This is dealing with the crossing of the Red Sea, and I'm gonna go in just a little bit on this, but this is coming from the book of Exodus, and this is the 13th chapter. And I'm gonna start at the 17th verse. This is the crossing of the sea, crossing of the Red Sea, and I'm just gonna read, and then you tell me if this makes any sense to you. When Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them on the road through Philistine country, which is an easier route if you look it up. If you look up Egypt and you look at Iraq right above Egypt, there's a landmass that goes like straight across. This landmass actually separates the Red Sea from the Mediterranean Sea, but I'll get to that later on. It was, and it even says here, though that was shorter for this country through that, for that it was shorter, for God said, if they face war, they might change their minds and return to Egypt. So God led the people around by the desert road towards the Red Sea. The Israelites went up out of Egypt armed for battle. Okay, I'm gonna stop right there. I'm just gonna stop right there. Now, he did not let them go up the easier route for fear that they might run into war. Okay? And if they ran into war, they might turn around and go back to Egypt. But it says right here that the Israelites went up out of Egypt armed for battle. Now, they're not supposed to go to war, wasn't supposed to go to war the shorter route, but the hard route, they was already prepared to fight the hard route. Okay, move on. Moses took the bones of Joseph with him because Joseph had made the son of Israel swear an oath. He had said, God will surely come to your aid, and then you must carry my bones up with you from this place. After leaving Succoth, they camped out at Etham on the edge of the desert. By day the Lord went ahead of them in a pillar of cloud to guide them on their way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, so they could travel by day or night. Neither the pillar of cloud by day nor the pillar of fire by night left its place in front of the people. Now check this out. We're in chapter 14, verse 1. Then the Lord said to Moses, tell the Israelites to turn back and encamp by Pi Hahiroth, between Madul and the sea. They are to encamp by the sea directly opposite Abal Zevul or Zephon. Pharaoh would think the Israelites are wandering around the land in confusion. Sound like they already, he don't have to think. I mean, it just looks obvious. I mean, why would you tell people to go somewhere and then turn back? I'll be confused. So he didn't take a rocket science to know that they were wandering. It even says in the Bible later on, and y'all know that story, that they wandered in the desert. All right. But that they've been wandering around the land in confusion, hemmed in by the desert, and I will harden his heart again. Instead of just going about the easy way, biblical God could have just softened Pharaoh's heart, and all of this right here wouldn't even have to go down. But he had to harden his heart again, as if the plagues and stuff wasn't enough for this man to say, you know what, we need to stop messing with these people. Let these people alone. We ain't following them. Why give chase? We're glad they're gone. He hardened his heart again, so now Pharaoh looking for revenge, I guess. But check this out. All right. And he will pursue them, but I will gain glory for myself through Pharaoh and all his army, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. So the Israelite did this. I'm just going to stop right there. First of all, you're supposed to be liberating people, right? And part of this liberation is to be running away from the armies of Pharaoh. All right. Now, Pharaoh is in pursuit of you. But you can camp out and, all of this. But we're talking about a well-trained army. People who have been trained not to even worry about sleep. Their objective is to get the mission done. That's their objective, is to get the mission done. But yet you're able to just chill out, camp out, and all that, while this army is after you. They're mad. Some of their kids died in the plagues, The firstborn. Yeah, they pretty pissed off. But you got time enough, according to these words here, you got time enough to sit back, camp out, and chill. And not only that, you got to turn back around from where you just came from. Just so biblical God can prove a point to Pharaoh. I mean, after the plagues, wasn't that point enough? Common sense would tell people like, hey man, we ain't messing with these people. We glad they're gone. But nah, biblical God like, okay, man, we gonna play some games right about now, you know what I'm saying? Because I got to prove my point again to Pharaoh, you know what I'm saying? So I'm a harden his heart up again. So now he getting pursuit and everything. But we're gonna move on. It says, and I'm at chapter 14, verse 5. When the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, Pharaoh and his officials changed their minds about them and said, what have we done? We have let the Israelites go and have lost their service. See, this all that slave talk shit. Even here, that's that hijack. Slave shit. All right. So he had his chariots made ready and took his army with him. He took 600 of his best chariots along with all the other chariots of Egypt, with officers over all of them. The Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, so that he pursued the Israelites who were marching out boldly. The Egyptians, all Pharaoh horses and chariots, horsemen and troops pursued the Israelites and overtook them as they camped by the sea, by Parathas, opposite of Baal-Zephon. As Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up, and there were the Egyptians marching after them. They were terrified and cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, wait a minute, they cried out to the Lord, but they said to Moses. Come on, man. All right. I guess because Moses is the holy man, like your preacher is, you got to go and cry out to the Lord by going to holler at Moses or holler at your preacher. Hijack. They were terrified and cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert to die? What have we done? Well, now wait a minute. Now Pharaoh asking what have he done by letting them go? You know what I'm saying? Because his mind was changed. Now the people are asking, what have they done to be brought into the desert to die? Basically. But earlier we heard that biblical God was saying that he didn't want them to go the easy route because he had fear that they will want to go back to Egypt. Thus they go the hard route. Now they're crying out to the Lord, what have we done for us to come out here and die in the desert? Now it sounds like to me, these people ready to go back. They crying out, Moses, man, what the hell, what we gonna do, bro? We out here now. Hey, they done caught up with us. Hey, right now these people sound like they ready to just give up and go on back. But we gonna go on. It says, what have we done? What have you done? This is what they saying to Moses. What have you done to us to bring us out of Egypt? What have you done? Why are you bringing us out of Egypt, man, when we was pretty much all right? From what they saying, what have you done, Moses, to bring us up out of Egypt? That we might die in this desert, basically. He says, these are the people talking. And they says, did we say to you in Egypt, leave us alone? It's the slaves in Egypt that Moses is supposed to be liberating and everything. But these people are basically saying right now, man, didn't we tell you to leave us alone? We ain't want to go nowhere. We were all right. We were cool, man. Now, this don't sound like slaves to me, man. They don't sound like people that were desperate to get away. These sound like people that were being led by somebody that was saying they were talking to somebody in their head who was like, yo, you know what? We need to go down here and do this. And the people like, nah, bro, what are you talking about? Moses like, nah, the Lord said we're going to do this. So y'all need to follow me. And he gonna harden the heart instead of soften the heart of this man. So, this man could let us go, but my God said he ain't gonna do it like that. So now the people like, the hell going on, Moses? What did you do, man? Bring us out here. We told you. We asked you to just leave us alone, man. It says it right here. Y'all don't believe me? Go and look it up. But here we go. Said, did we say to you in Egypt, leave us alone? Let us serve the Egyptians. All right. It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the desert. Okay. Now this is Moses' answer. Moses answered the people, don't be afraid, stand firm, and you will see the deliverance of the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see them again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. That sounds familiar. Don't even protect yourself. Don't worry about protecting yourself. Even though this army is on you and they ready to kill you because of the things that have happened by my God and told you, the plagues and everything that happened, that I boasted that my God did these things, and now I got you all in jeopardy. But don't worry about it, It just be biblical God gonna take care of this. Watch this. He gonna handle this. All you gotta do is peace, be still. Right? Them people was at peace and were being still in Egypt. Now they out here in jeopardy. You know, evidently life wasn't that bad for these people. For them to be like, hey, I mean, if I'm a slave and I know I was being treated well, I mean, treated bad, and if I was a slave, I was treated bad, hell yeah, I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to die in that desert to have my freedom. But yet and still, these people are begging to go back home. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to show you how this story has been hijacked in a minute. But I just want you to get it in your mental mind, how ridiculous this sounds before I break it down to you. Yes, this is an actual story. Yes, this thing actually happened, but not in the narrative that you got here. Actual history, I'm going to tell you. All right? But these people ready to go back home. Ready to go back. And Moses like, nah, you know what I'm saying, just chill, you know, biblical God, he finna handle this. Then the Lord said to Moses, and I'm in chapter 14, and this right here is going to be verse, sorry, my eyes ain't that good, but this is going to be like verse, I think it's 15, some around that nature. You can just read the whole chapter 14 if you want to, but you'll see what I'm saying. Then the Lord said to Moses, why are you crying out to me? What the hell? Wait a minute. Biblical God just asked Moses, lady, oh, hold up. Wait a minute. Why y'all crying out to me? Maybe because you told us to come out here in this situation? You know, don't you see what's going on? You see all, you know all, you hear all. But you don't see these people ready to slaughter us, and now we crying out to you for help, and you gonna ask me, why am I crying out to you? Wait a minute. Sound like some of those preachers after you pay your tithes and your offerings, right? Then when you need a bill paid, they asking you, know, I have faith in the Lord. Why you crying to me? Just have faith in the Lord. But I digress. We see where they get that attitude from now. But I digress. And the Lord asked him, said, why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to move on. Raise your staff and stretch it out your hands over the sea to divide the water so that the Israelites can go through the sea on dry ground. I will harden the heart of Pharaoh of the Egyptians. Here we go with that harden of the heart again, so that they will go after you. Basically. Just so they can pursue you much harder. But they got you surrounded. Ain't no running. How the hell you running from a well-trained army and they got you surrounded? Okay? Plus, you done had to turn back into a couple of lands just to be like on the outskirts of the sea. So you don't stand a chance to make it to the sea. Understand that, all right? And I will gain glory through Pharaoh and all his army, through his chariots. Notice they got chariots and horses. They got chariots and horses. You understand me? You running. These people on feet. I mean, really, these people on foot. And these people got hundreds of chariots and hundreds of horsemen and well-trained army. And you going to run and make it to this sea. Come on now. Come on, common sense. Common sense. Common sense. Intuition. Common sense. The real Holy Spirit. Common sense. Intuition. Will tell you that there was no way that these people in this narrative could have made it to any sea for Moses to part anything. Really, they've been overtaken. And then you got biblical God who led you out here asking you why you come to me and asking me. Just push on. But you're going to show them the glory and everything by me parting the sea, which happened. They say which happened. They said it happened. That he made it, that they actually made it to the sea and everything. But let me go on. Pharaoh and all his armies, through his chariots and his horsemen, the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord when I gain glory through Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen. All right? Now, this is crazy. They outran chariots and horsemen by the thousands. I mean, by the hundreds. He had hundreds of horsemen, as we seen up here in the previous verses of this same chapter, that they had an army with chariots, well-trained people, and you on foot. And then biblical God, who told you to put yourself in this situation, is asking you, why you calling me? Just move on. All right, but I'm just move on. The angel of God, who had been traveling in front of Israel's army, withdrew and went behind them. Now they said, wait a minute, now it's the angel of God. I thought this was God going before them himself in a pillar of a cloud and fire. But now it's an angel. Now which one is it? Is it biblical God leading these people, or is it an angel leading these people? And we know that an angel is nothing but a messenger. Hell, a man can be an angel. A man can be a messenger. What is this pillar of smoke? What is this pillar of fire? Is it biblical God or is it an angel? But now we get down here, it was God going before them, but now it's an angel. So is this angel their God? I don't know. Like I said, common sense, it just doesn't really add up using common sense. It don't. With all that, this shit don't make sense without all of that. It just don't. It don't. It don't. We got to be real with ourselves. It don't. It don't. All right. Then the angel of God, who had been traveling in front of Israel's army, withdrew and went behind them. The pillar of cloud also moved in front and stood behind them. Wait a minute. Now we got an angel, and now we got a pillar of cloud. Well, I guess that must have been the Most High or biblical God. I ain't gonna curse the Most High like that. Biblical God now. Now we got two. We got now we got one that went by day and one went by night. But now we got two at the same time. And one was an angel all of a sudden, and the other one was just a puff of smoke. But okay. Also moved in front and stood behind them, coming between the armies of Egypt and Israel. Oh, about time somebody showed up for these people. Throughout the night, the cloud brought darkness, so the one side, and the light to the other side. So this was a cloak. So neither went near the other all night long. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Now, it was bringing darkness apparently to the armies on one side, and it was bringing light to the Israelites on the other side, which I don't understand, which was quit these people from pursuing, because that's what God had hardened their heart to do, is to pursue these people. So all of this really is unnecessary. This sounds like a bunch of theatrics to me. You know, sound like a movie. But let me go on. It says, then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night, and all that might the God drove all the night. Wait a minute. Let me read that again, so I don't want to say nothing wrong. Okay. Then Moses, this is verse 21, chapter 14, Exodus. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. All that night? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. It took all night long for biblical God to push back waters that he created to make dry land. That's what it says. All that night. We're talking about the almighty force of all creations took all night just to push back waters that he created with a wind. And then turned it into dry land. Then it says the waters were divided and the Israelites went through the sea on the dry grounds with all the walls of the waters on the right and the left side of them. Okay. But this took all night. These people are on horses and chariots. I'm just going to stop right there. I'm just going to stop right there. Because I'm going to give you the true narrative in a minute of that story. But all night, these horses was out to these people, and it took all night for the waters to push back. And you mean to tell me they didn't get overtaken? All night. There was just an angel, and all the angel did was just stand there. It didn't say that the angel did anything, but just come in between them. But their hearts are hardened, so they're going to keep pursuing. And then because we know the end part, that they went in and then the waters fell on top of them and they got wiped out. And we believe this. And I'm going to tell you why we believe this, because there's an element of truth in it. The only way for a perfect lie to work, it has to have an element of truth in it. And here's the truth. The Exodus did happen, but not in the way that we got the account of. The Exodus actually happened from the Americas to other parts of Americas, and eventually over into the continent that we call Euro-Africa, or Africa and Europe, same continent. Anyway, there were our people, our ancestors, the dark-skinned ancestors, the American Aborigines, the original prehistoric people of the world, did Exodus from here. But it wasn't because they've been pursued or they were slaves or things like that. We were quite naturally curious. We wanted to know what else was all around us. And so therefore, we got together with a lot of people within different tribes here and decided to go across the waters, which is easy to do from the Americas to the African, Spain, and all of that is easy because the current that carries you from here to there is easy to do that from here. Easy. You can get caught up in the current right now and you can end up in Spain from the Americas, because that's the way the currents roll. Not the way that they try to teach you, which is reverse. Period. But our people were leaving from here and going into these other areas that we know now. They began to populate places like Asia. That's why you have the Aborigines of Asia, a dark-skinned people. The Aborigines, or the first people of Europe, were dark-skinned people. Look it up. Because they were coming from here and they were going into other lands. Now, all of this Pharaoh chasing them and all that stuff right there, that's made up theatrics. Made up theatrics. Our people were migrating from here to there. And there was, because if you look at the geographical location of Egypt, and then you got Israel right above it, then you got, which would be Palestine and all that. They didn't go that way, so they went down in another way, which this way would have been easier. Why? Because there's a landmass that connects that. Convenient, isn't it? But now we're going to go to the outskirts and get surrounded. When we was already, could have went through these other places and may not even face war. These people could have gave you safe passage. It all depends on what their relationship was with the Egyptians at the time. But they lied, because the locations that they're talking about that exist over there on that continent, they don't line up correctly. But if you was to take your research and bring it over here, you would see that everything lines up perfectly. Maybe 2 or 3 times over than they do with a one over on that continent. So people were migrating from here to there. But they told you this story here to kind of confuse you as to where things were going and how things were going and what was being done. Just like they told you that Egypt is over there on that continent, when actually Egypt is in Peru. That's where Egypt actually is in Peru. It's in Peru, and some can argue that is even in Utah, in the Americas. So these people were not being pursued. The true story goes is that these people were migrating from here, and there was other people. There was one account of a story that other people had left these lands and they had made it over to other shores, which is the east, if you. And they got word back here that and so one account was these people, these group of people, they actually took their voyage and they wrote about it. They wrote about their voyage over there, and they was worried that they would not see their people anymore, and they was being led by a man who we would equate to as being Moses. And we're talking about like when the Aztec Indians were leaving Aztlan. The Aztecs were the Aztec Indians, or a group of them, and they were leaving here and they were traveling over the seas. So this one account is that the people that were on the boat with him were complaining like, man, we're never going to see our brothers anymore. We're never going to see anybody no more. And they was using what we know as redwood from the redwood trees. This is why you get the staff in the story. The staff was actually the oars that they were using to roll themselves over here. It was made out of the redwood tree. These staffs. So it wasn't just Moses that had a staff. It was all of them that had a staff. And then they said that the staff parted the waters, the sands of the waters from the sands of the shores, basically. And what happens when you run onto shore? When you stick your oar down, you would notice that you're on dry ground and sand is separating you, even if with a kayak to this day. When you come to the shore, you notice that your stick or your oar goes into the ground, separating the water from the shore that you just ran upon. Separates the deep from the shallow. And they wrote about this. And then Europeans get this story, and they changed it and gave you this right here. They got your ancient stories, man, from the Americas. And they wrote it down in this right here, and they fabricated and changed it around where you don't understand what you're really reading. That story right there is of dark-hued, carpet-colored people leaving the Americas and going over into how you think we got Egypt now. How you think we got those dynasties in China now, founded by dark-hued individuals that look like us. But they don't tell you that story. They don't tell you that history, because it's his story. Mystery, my story. You understand? His story. Mystery, my story. You ain't, do the math. You equate this thing. But anyway, this is a written account of our people who migrated from the Americas. Dark-hued people, because that's all that was over here with the exception of a few albinos who still held their ancient ancestors' resemblance. We get Asians and Mongolians from that side of the continent, from those albinos. That's what they are. European Asians are albinos of the original people who didn't originate in Egypt or Africa and all that. They originated from here. So the Exodus story is just the migration story of people from the Americas, the copper-colored races of Americas, leaving the Americas and going over into those other regions on that continent over there. That's it. And then they complicate it by throwing this dramatics in it that when you read it, it really don't make sense. Why would all this have to happen when all this could just... So they throw in these theatrics when the real story is more simpler than, like they say, truth is stranger than fiction. They gave you the fiction to hide the truth, so they complicate truth with all of this other stuff, and it powers it on top of the true story. So you don't even discover the true story. You run with the fiction part of it. And that's what happens. That's hijacking. That's mental hijacking. That's what they do. They mentally hijack you. They take your story, switch it around, give it back to you, and then Hollywood helps out by placing all of these Europeanized faces on everything. All right? But that's what the Exodus was. It didn't have nothing to do with none of that crazy stuff of pharaohs chasing the army, getting hard. Oh, we should leave them alone. No, let's go get them. Oh, we can't see them. Oh, let's go after them. Well, we can't see them. Well, let's go after them. You know what I'm saying? We got hundreds of chariots. We should have been us around the beach. But prior to them stopping, the angels and everybody was in front of the Israelites, which means there was no barrier between Come on, man, let's wake up. Let's wake up and do some real research. Let's go do some real research. We can't keep falling for the okie doke, people. We've been smarter than that. And we're the ones who brought civilizations into civilization. So we should be smarter than this, man. You know the stuff that you talk to believe in don't make no damn sense. You know the shit don't add up. You know it don't make no sense at all. But when you look at it from a different point of view, I seen that orb, and I hope that's my ancestors. I hope y'all saw that too. Seen the orb just go past me. And I'm peace and blessings to my ancestors that are here with me, because they love it when I express truth. Your ancestors will love it when you express truth too. So you don't get freaked out when you see little orbs and stuff like that around you, because you come accustomed to knowing who is around you, because you can feel them. See, this is the stuff that they gave you this right here to take away from you, your natural abilities. They gave you this to take that away from you. They gave you a bunch of lies with a little bit of truth.